Good day, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, listeners. I hope you're doing well and you're having a good weekend. You are welcome to my Liberation Gospel. I'm Ukachukwu Okorie. It's my pleasure to talk to you on this marvelous day. I don't know how it is in your environment, but a good day so far. I thank God for this day that you have joined me to learn a bit, to rub minds, and to raise our consciousness towards the implementation of justice and exaltation of His name. So I join Him to expand the horizon of our wisdom as we listen to this, so that at the end of the exercise, we shall use this for the greater glory of His name and to push forward the goodings of mankind. I thank you for listening, joining me today, and it's important I just spend an hour in this program. I want to talk about the Nigerian rape culture and echoes of Biafra. We've seen, or we've heard, or we've been reading what is happening in the country, Nigeria, how a 22-year-old university student, Vera Owalia or Mozua, was raped inside a church on the 27th, I think, and 3 days later, she died from the injuries. She was physically and sexually assaulted in a church. But it's important that her spirit has resurrected. The hidden anomalies in that space called Nigeria, just like it was seen in the United States. George Floyd, his death has sparked riot across the United States of America, and this is to tell you that certain actions bring about the end of injustice, raise the consciousness therein in man, in as much as that at times it looks as if there existed humans on earth But let us back up change, because when the only thing that is inevitable in the society is change. And as such, I want to look a bit about the rape culture. When I say the rape culture in Nigeria, many of you who are Nigerians listening to me know that there's a rape culture in the country. In Nigeria, in every minute, there's a rape happening in Nigeria. And it's important for you to, if you want, you can share this video or send it across, because Facebook has been on a warpath with Ukachukwu Okorie against me and my organizations, especially my media platforms. But the vehicle of justice must be driven to its desired, no matter whose ox is God. We happy that the social media is giving us that opportunity. It's a window to address a lot that has happened in the past. We are writing our history. We are telling our story, just like the condensed message in my media outfit says, unless the haunted gives his account, the story of the... forget about the fact that we are on Facebook. They are handicapped. They are making money off. We are giving them information. We are giving them the content. Without us, they cannot operate. They have tried in many ways to stifle freedom of expression. In many ways, all that glitters are not gold. But that is part of human nature. They have tried to, many ways, closing my pages. If I open up a page, when they see how fast it's moving, they will close it. The same with the media outfit I run, Africa World Newspaper, Africa World TV. They keep closing it on their platform, because they've managed to build this platform as the biggest online market. And as such, they try to stifle of expression. Nonetheless, we shall march forward. So, the Nigerian rape culture, we've seen what's happening, demonstrations going across the country, but we do know that a lot of things are driving this rape culture, poverty, inequality, religious beliefs, and many other things. It is important that Nigerians are their consciousness, and many have been aware of what has been going on, but for fear of death, for fear of getting incarcerated, for fear, many things, they don't speak out. But thanks to God, the social media is giving citizens the opportunity to air their opinion and say things how they feel, in as much as they are still the bad sides of the social media. But we feel at the moment on the lane of freedom of expression, the benefits are enormous. And as such, first of all, I have to start by looking at rape. When it comes to rape, there are things we have to look at. In Nigeria, generally rape, when a woman doesn't consent to having sexual intercourse, or not allowing you to get access to her, that is rape. If you live in the western part of the society, you begin to understand more about rape, because the fear of a rape case is the beginning of wisdom. Where we were born, there are many things that count against rape, and hence the rape culture has been instituted across the length and breadth of the country, but it's driven by certain factors. Like I said, it's driven by poverty, the enormity of poverty, abject penury and poverty. Abysmal, it is high. Hence, rape happens daily, on a daily basis. It happens in administrative buildings. It happens in offices. It happens in schools. Schools from third level institutions, tertiary institutions to secondary schools, and even primary schools. It happens in homes. It happens in churches. The length and breadth of the country, it does happen. And I said that it's driven by poverty, inequality, and religious belief. That I think there are a lot of things to talk about this, but I have to gather all within an hour. We have seen many coming out today to talk about their experiences. If opportunity will be given, or we'll find a modality to hear rape cases because with the issue of rape in Nigeria, that's why I said it's a culture in Nigeria. And you see, I added the issue of Biafra because during the war, there was thousands of cases of rape. But before I go further, in Nigeria, it's on paper, but it's ambiguous. There's a lot that is surrounded that under the Marriage Act of 1990 in Nigeria, the minimum legal age of marriage is 21 years for girls and boys, although they are able to marry before this with written consent from a parent. Under the Child Rights Act of 2003 in Nigeria, the minimum legal age of marriage is 18 years in Nigeria. I want you to send this video across because the lads in Facebook have adopted a new method of making sure they downgrade and restrict access. These things are beginning to is a signal to where Facebook is heading. It is no longer report yourself or citizen journalistic mechanism. They are trying to hinder access to people by various means. But all the same, like I said, 18 years according to the Child Rights Act of 2003 in Nigeria. The minimum legal age of marriage is 18 years with the consent of a guardian. It's a written consent. But besides that, under the Marriage Act of 1990, the minimum legal age of marriage in Nigeria is 21. But that is on paper. You know, Nigeria, good in policy. They will just be churning out policies every day without obeying that. Nigeria is very good in, they will just wake up, just like the lockdown. You saw the lockdown, then each governor will come out and be reading out prepared speeches. I have ordered this lockdown. They keep locking people down without providing palliatives. That is the case in Nigeria. And when you say in the age of consent in Nigeria is 11 years old, the age of consent is the minimum age at which an individual is considered legally old enough to consent to participation in sexual activity. You see, it's horrible. And that will bring you easily to what happened sometime in Zamfara State by the former governor of Zamfara and later a senator, Yerima also, Sani Yerima. I hope I'm right with his name. Sani Yerima. You all know when he married a girl, I think the young girl, the teenager was imported from Egypt or so, either 13 or 14 years, and he was a member of the Senate. What happened? What happened? Nothing happened. So that is Nigeria. for you. So, but and that was why I said the culture of rape is driven by poverty, inequality, and belief. But the most important thing now is that the level of consciousness is rising, and from this level of rise of consciousness, it's change. If people understand the enormity of the powers in their hands, I think change can always be effected. We've seen what is happening across the US, and it's touching in many Western countries. They are following the US as usual. One will even laugh at some demonstrations in Nigeria, though it's not something that will just laugh. But why we are laughing at it is because the Black Lives Matter demonstrated in Lagos, was it in Victoria or Ikoyi, and Abuja also. They demonstrated in favor of George Floyd that died in Nigeria. Unfortunately, these same people have never demonstrated, or even if they have, they didn't give it the kind of publicity that they gave the one that they did in favor of George Floyd. For all those that are being massacred on a daily basis across southern Kaduna, across the Middle Belt, and the length and breadth of the southern part of Nigeria. Now, why did I say there's a culture of rape in Nigeria? We've seen the legal ages for marriages in Nigeria, 18, 21, and 18 too, with the written consent from a guardian or a parent, and the age of consent at 11 years. And we can easily take a reference from Senator Sani Yerima, who was former governor of Zamfara State, and when he married from Egypt, you all saw what happened. He married from Egypt a girl who was 14 or 13 at that time, and nothing happened. The Senate in Nigeria never said anything about that, and it has carried on in Nigeria. If you go to the northern part of Nigeria, they kidnap girls. Everyone know that, and it is important for you to get these facts well. After the adoption of Sharia law in Zamfara State in early January 2000, Zamfara State became the first state in Nigeria to allow for legal recognition of polygamous marriage under civil law. You know, in Nigeria, a lot of aberrations come on. Nigeria is a country where no wonder some people do a lot of rubbish happen in Nigeria and nobody questions. Nigeria allows, especially in Zamfara State, legal recognition of polygamous marriage under civil law. As such, is like it is practiced under Sharia, which allows for a man to take up 4 wives on account. On the account, he treats them equally, but you know that is not correct. And as such, you know, what happened in northern Nigeria has been influencing the rest of the country because of their practice of marrying children, you know, the married children, and that has given silence on the issue of intimidation of the girl child in Nigeria and rape. We heard about the case of a little girl that was abducted, you heard me right, abducted from Bayelsa to Kano. And we've had cases of abductions from southern part of Nigeria, and they will run away with these little girls to the northern part of Nigeria. So if we see this thing that now keep happening in these abductions, what about in the north? What has been happening there? I met a young woman sometime in Lagos recently, and she told me the kind of stories that many of us are not aware. That girls, young girls are abducted by families, affluent families, particularly Fulani families, those that own the system there. You know, they divided that part of the country into emirates, and the emirs have the final says. We are aware that the young girl that was sometime abducted from Bayelsa and taken to Kano, Lamido Sanusi Lamido, who was dethroned recently from the stool of the emir of Kano, was aware of that abductions. He didn't do anything. Many of you are aware. He never did anything. And that has continued. And when the so-called leaders are into this rape, into this culture of rape, because of their religion, because of their way of life, because of their dirty character, of course, the rest of the society will do that, and it will be tolerated. And so, this rape culture has grown, is permeated now into the bone marrows and cultural fabric of the Nigerian society. And that is why you see a 22-year-old girl will be raped inside a church. Inside a church. You can imagine. What about the issue of Boko Haram invading the Chibok school? Taking in broad daylight, taking 200 and something students into Sambisa forest or wherever, God knows. And they keep abducting girls. When the girls are released, many of them are with babies. They make them mothers. These are secondary school kids. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old girls. Girls that are not strong enough. But you know, let it not be as if I am talking more against the practice in the north. It is equal in the south. But why it has continued is because there are the policies are ambiguous. It's not well laid down. It's not clear. And the justice system is not favorable. It's not fair. I will tell you my own experience on this rape case. But it's important that girls are becoming bold to speak out, because that is the number one thing. When I saw that, we know the kind of society and the culture we do come out from, that it's something, it's a social stigma, so to say, to report rape in Nigeria. Because it's marvelous that girls are beginning to talk about it. We are now making it an issue. We need to talk about it. And because some of our cultures, some aspects of our cultures are not good, in the sense that when a young woman is raped, you will see a lot of, that's the stigmatization that is followed. The consequences of that, it's sickening. I mean, knowing fully well that what our society it's all about, the socio-cultural implications in this rape, and just announcing that you were raped. We've seen men departing, leaving their women because they were raped. And, you know, these are partly the lack of education on these issues. But, you know, we keep misplacing steps because of the kind of leadership we find ourselves in. And as such, the most important thing that need to be sorted in this war against rape culture is the education. Education of the society. The society must be educated about the issue of this rape. I know there are many other things that need to be talked about, and that's where I will come in when I'm talking about the echoes of Biafra. We've seen the social stigmatization of reporting rape cases. But now that the center cannot hold the troubles of the marauding Fulani headsmen and the jihadists in our farms, raping our grandmothers, raping our mothers, raping our sisters in farms, and we've not only raping them, beheading them at the same time. We've seen the killings in the Middle Belt, how families are wiped out after raping the women, after raping elderly octogenarians. You see old women, grandmothers, they are subjected to the horrible atrocities of rape, and after that, their life will be taken out. You see, there is a culture of rape, and we need to talk about it before we start looking at other places that rape happen on a daily basis in Nigeria. In fact, I think there should be a national emergency in Nigeria on the issue of rape, because the Nigerian woman is in trouble. She's in trouble because she's a victim in every part of the society. Is it the workplace, where her superiors, her boss, want to sleep with her in the office, or want to take her to a hotel place, or even would intimidate her, will threaten to sack her because she will not fall to his advances. We see that it happens every day in companies in Nigeria. It does happen every day. It does happen in our universities, whereby lecturers take the girls must spread their legs in order to pass or to graduate, or to just do to move on with her studies. Or is it in Nollywood that we see, even if no matter how good you are, no matter how talented you are, if you don't have the big bum, if you don't have the big breast, you may not get a role. Or if you don't have, if you don't sleep with those who are recruiting the casts, it may be difficult for you to get a role. Or do we talk about the banking industry? All know during the time of this new generation banks, when they were, I think during the Jonathan era, the era of the marketing staff, you will be given a certain amount to get in order for you to retain your marketing job. And as such, young girls and even married women, we are forced. When I say forced, coercion. You may not be saying you must do this, but look, indirectly, if you don't do that, you will lose your job. If you don't get that, cross that financial Rubicon, or get that the certain number of accounts that you need in order to retain your job, you will be sacked. Do we talk about that? Or do we talk about the female politicians in Nigeria? Most Nigerians will tell you, if you are a politician, if you're a female politician in Nigeria, they thought they are stereotyped easily. The thoughts by many Nigerians that you will be used for, and it does happen. There was still there was a statement, was it last year, about one major political party in Nigeria that they said top party officials abused many of their female aspirants in order to give them the party ticket to fly. It does happen. Or is it beauty pageants whereby the organizers sleep with the contestants? Or do we talk about the security agencies whereby we see top officers, generals, and those at the top echelon of the security apparatus intimidate the lesser officers who they find interested to them? Do we talk about marriages, parents pushing their children into the hands of those who are rich because of poverty? There are many things to talk about. The rape cases, it happens every day in the Nigerian society. It happens every day. And there was one case, one I witnessed. And it happened in Owerri, Shell Camp. If you are listening to me, if you know the Owerri Shell Camp police, I want you to note this. I never forget that all my life. That was the first time I went to police. I went into police detention. I haven't gained admission into the university then. This issue happened before I went to Nnamdi Azikiwe University to pursue my first degree. There was two bungalows my dad built in the World Bank area of. Then it was on completion, and we were looking for a tenant. So one industrialist like that, I don't want to talk about his personal thread, but you know, then when 419ers used to reign in that part of the world, and they all bragged, and this man, something happened, and he tried to intimidate me. He wanted to take up this accommodation for his staff, and our caretaker gave him a wrong rent price, and I the right one. I came to from where my dad was working, where we used to live at Olo, and so I told our caretaker that, look, my dad said this is not right, and we have to go to the man's factory to tell him that what he had bidded or he had agreed with you wasn't right. So on our way, the man was coming out of his factory on a convoy, and I flagged him down. And you can imagine, arrogantly. So the man brought down his door window panes and asked me, who gave me the authority to flag him? Do you know who he was? So, and I was startled. I said, which kind of thing is this? And I said, sorry if I flagged you down wrongly, but we are coming to your office. So since you are on exit, so I decided, this man is my dad's caretaker, and he gave you a wrong information, and I'm here with the right information. My dad said the price you were agreed with him, or you were discussing with him, wasn't the right price. This is the right price. So, and the man just went haywire. He went nuts, and I thought he was crazy. And before you know it, the man called the police on me. And the police, Nigerian police, they were called by a big man, and that was the Shell Camp police, called by a big man. They came, a very little boy. They didn't even know. The man made accusation against me and the caretaker, and we were bundled inside their inside their rickety Range Rover or Land Rover or so, and they took us to Shell Camp. At the Shell Camp place, we were taken behind bars. So, but there was something that happened. Though I slept there, the next day I came out. My dad got this information and came out and sent one of his messengers to the Shell Camp. They met the DPO, and I was released. But something happened at night, and I never forget that. Do you know, at watching from the cell room what was happening? At midnight, the police were taking the ladies. So normally in Nigerian cell, depending on which kind of cell, they don't bring in the ladies inside the cell. They put them behind the counter. So the ladies were behind the counter. At night, I saw them, the police, they were sharing the ladies one by one, taking them upstairs to sleep with them. So, and I watched that. It was an utter horrification to me. I asked, I said, God, what is this? What is happening? And that never left my memory. I said, look at these police people, we are dirty. Is this what is happening in this system? And why did I mention that? These things, it means it has been happening. And it happens across Nigerian police stations. Females that come to the police stations are intimidated. They are slept with. You know the Nigerian police, you'll be beaten up, and the fear, Bell now, some of them, they sleep with them, give them a lot of diseases, intimidate them, rape them. These things happen. And I saw that in Shell Camp. Quote me, Shell Camp Okorie. I saw that, and man, I said, look, these people are dirty. Why did I tell this story? This is just one of the daily tales that come out of Nigeria. There's a culture of rape in Nigeria. A culture of rape in company offices, in administrative buildings, in government buildings, universities, in homes, and even our families. The culture of rape is there. But the most important thing is that the Nigerian girl is beginning to speak out. And that is what is interesting. Because as long as they are beginning to speak out, then the consciousness is there. It's just like the terrible things happening in Nigeria, suffering and smiling. We've seen the troubles in the country, yet we don't want to talk about it. And when you see somebody who is talking about it, you want to bring the person down by all means, because you are benefiting from the system. We must raise our voices against this, because it could be your daughter tomorrow, it could be your sister, it could be your mother. Already it's happening. We've seen that. Apart from the places we think it's normal that this rape happen daily, we've seen the violent side of this rape. We are using the death of 22-year-old Vera Owalia or Mozoa in Edo State as a contact point for the numerous rape that happened in the Nigerian system. It is important that they get justice. It is important that there's education on the issue of rape. We need to raise the social education, what is attached to it, and make sure that the social stigma of reporting rape does not exist. We must begin to understand that rape is a heinous crime. It is a heinous crime because you can't tolerate. Assuming now you have a wife and someone come and rape your wife in your presence. How will you feel? Or someone rape your sister in your presence. So if you find it horrible when it is done in your presence, it is equally horrible when it is done in your absence. Let alone, you see, killing. Many do rape and kill so that it will not be heard. We've seen that. And killing is not only when you cut off somebody's head. Killing includes making sure that the person disappears from the vicinity by the act of sacking the person or expelling the person, or making sure that the person's voice is not heard, or stampeding on the person. We've seen that. It happens every day, and we must begin to sound serious repercussions for it. We must criminalize it and make sure that the maximum punishment is meted on rapists. We've seen high rape cases coming up. Many of your so-called celebrities are now being accused. Many of them do rape because of the fact they are top in the society and they are among the high and mighty. They are easily believed, and no one brings them to book. We've seen there's an issue that just came out that someone is accusing the Banj of raping her. We've seen other stars too. We know that there will be selected cases of blackmail, but it is important that the justice system addresses it. Unfortunately, we don't have a good justice system, and that is why we want a Republic of Biafra, because we've seen that in all facets of the society, Nigeria is a failed state. We've seen that. Nigeria is a failed state. If Sani Yerima will marry a girl of 13 or 14 years and it cannot be discussed in the Senate, it is a failed state. If Boko Haram can come into a school and take away 200 and something students as if they are cutting away goods, and the students will be returning as mothers, Nigeria is a failed state. If our girls will go into the church and they will be raped inside the church and murdered at the same time, Nigeria is a failed state. If a female politician will be raped or be forced to have sex before she gets a party ticket, a ticket to fly the party's flag at elections, Nigeria is a failed state. If women or our young girls in the bank must sleep with the bank managers or sleep with those at the helm of the banking sector in order to retain their jobs, Nigeria is a failed state. If our ladies who must have graduated from schools who have to sleep or pay in order to get a job, Nigeria is a failed state. If a married woman, a woman that is married, will have to be sleeping, banging her boss in order to return her job, the country is a failed state. If our female soldiers and police officers will be sleeping with their bosses. There was a case with the last Inspector General of Police. There was a case of her impregnating one of the police. I don't want to call her name, but you know, if you search for, I read it in the newspapers. There was was it a police man or no, another top politician? I think they were having quarrels. He's from the state or so, from the zone, who constantly kept accusing the former Inspector General of Police of impregnating another top police officer, you know, through intimidation and co. And as such, the IG tried every way to deal with that politician because of the case that the man brought to public knowledge. It means Nigeria is a failed state. If our leaders, you will see them, they take women. I mean, the Nigerian woman doesn't have a voice. They don't have a voice when it comes to rape. Even culturally, socially, politically, and otherwise. They don't have a voice to fight against this rape culture in the system. It must be criminalized. Nigeria is a failed state. We do know that Nigeria is a failed state. You and I do know. What's the definition of a failed state? When the justice system doesn't work, when somebody who took fourth position becomes a governor, is that justice? When you have to sleep with those recruiting new employees for you to get a job, is that justice? Is it not a sign of a failed state? When a 9-year-old girl, an 11-year-old girl, a 12-year-old girl will be married off to a 50, 60, 70 something year old man, is it not a sign of a failed state? When Boko Haram will just come in and kidnap at will, kidnap girls, and the girls will come back, mothers, and the government doesn't do anything about it because they themselves are involved in such act. Is it not a failed state? When we say we don't want to share country with this kind of people, it looks as if we are against anybody. We are not against anybody. But it's just that the signs of failed statehood is everywhere in Nigeria. So why would you want to share the same state with with nomadic cow rearers who will go into a farm and rape a 60-something year old woman and behead her? Something that is big time robbery, you know, something that is treated like armed robbery. It happens daily in the country. They're bringing it down the southern part of the country, but it's been happening in the northern part of the country for tens of years. It's been happening. It's just that the social media is now giving us the window to view the atrocities that have been happening in that part of Nigeria. Killings, families will be just wiped out, villages will be wiped out in a day, hundreds will be just killed. This time, the raping is nothing to them. It's nothing to them. They'll just go into Hausa families, go into families of minorities in the north, just take off any girl they want, nothing happens. Nothing happens. They're bringing that in the South. That culture is. So you see, when this culture of violence and rape is part of the system, then raping in the university, raping at workplace, raping in companies, raping in administrative buildings becomes a secondary issue. Because automatically we have a primary issue that have been instituted in the society, is part of it. In Nigeria, you don't even go to the police to report that you were raped. I saw one joke, was it, I've forgotten his name, a comedian, who was saying, going to the police to report that you were raped. They will ask you, where was it? You will see, if you say it was in the man's house, you may even be arrested. And they'll ask you, how did you go to the man's house? And things like that. Do you know the number of married women that are raped on a daily basis in Nigeria? Many of them dare not talk about it because of the social stigma that is attached, because of what their husbands will say. Many of them, if they reveal that their husbands are going to leave them, who is going to marry them then? But you know, at the end of the day, because of the fact that they need to work, because of the fact that they need to earn a living, even some of them contribute to the economic stability in the family. They don't want a social dislocation in the family, or you know, do you know the enormity of the emotional trauma that it causes? So many keep this issue at heart. They rather go down the grave having it in their heart than saying it out. Now, I want you to begin to understand what the Biafrans saw during the Biafran War. I want you to begin to understand how millions of women, Biafran women, were raped during the Civil War. How our aunties, how our mothers were raped by these soldiers. Many of them were carted away like trophies, because before the war, it was tough to even get a Biafran woman, especially an Igbo woman. Today, they will tell you an Igbo woman is very costly, and they like money. Because we love to take care of our women. So it is not about being costly. It's a cultural thing. We want them to look good. Then you see, when there's issue, you see violent men taking the advantage. They will now take them as trophy. This has happened during the war. Many of them didn't return. Those who were bold came back. Some were even ostracized in the society. This is why cultures must change. There are aspects of the culture that must change. Now that women are becoming bold to speak out, we must help them to speak out. We must amend aspects of our culture, our arbitration system, to accommodate this healing process. Because rape is a big deal. It has an enormous effect on the psyche, on social standing, and even on other aspects of one's life. I mean, do you know what it means? That you don't want something is forced on you. You don't want it and it's forced on you. Or let alone a child Many are now involved in pedophilia. Children that are underaged. You see that it happens. This is a crime against humanity, and it must be nipped in the bud. It must be stopped. We must stop it. We must, as we are demanding justice for this particular case on the Edo young girl Owa, we demand justice for every woman. We demand justice for the girl child. We demand justice for people. And that is why you need to begin to understand why we want the restoration of the Republic of Biafra, so that we can obey the law. We can institute a legal framework that people must obey the law. In Nigeria, we don't obey the law. The rich go scot-free. The prisons are there, but the prisons are for poor people. The rich never go to prison unless you lose favor with the powers that be. One of the things that help the Western society have more stability is, to an extent, the law works for everyone. I don't say that some people doesn't beat the law, but to a maximum extent, to a good extent, the law works for everyone. If it will be so in the Nigerian society, I think, to an extent, some of these social anomalies will start getting rectified. So the social stigma of reporting rape, we must stop it. We must begin to understand that rape is a heinous crime. It is a crime against humanity. Because the woman is the foundation of the society. She must be respected. But the justice system must be sound, so that we'll begin to decipher where errors are made. Where we don't have a sound justice system, we cannot have a good arbitration process. Because I understand somebody can accuse false rape, but we do know that where we do come from, that rape happens every day. And it must stop. That rape that happens in the place of work, that rape that happens for you to get a job, that rape that happens in the church, that rape that occurs in universities, in polytechnics, in secondary schools, that molestation of that girl child, and even the boy in schools must stop. Are we talking about the ritualism? How young girls are taken away by rituals and killed, and their parts harvested. Are we not aware of that? This is why I say poverty, inequality, and belief touch about, but poverty. On the issue of poverty, we've seen that the system is terrible. Nigeria is a failed state, a state that doesn't provide for its people. Look at the average worker is not provided for. Then how will their young girl be provided if mommy and daddy is not provided for? The young girl will jump into the arms of any man for a mere 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira, 20,000 naira is a big deal. We do know that even in tertiary institutions, by the mere fact of providing food for girls, you take many to bed. You even coerce them into having sex with you. This is sign of a failed state, a state that there's abject poverty. We do know that many families are struggling to feed. We've seen whereby parents encourage their children to be raped because of poverty. Because the system is terrible. The system exalts in intimidation and driving their citizens to becoming poor. So you see, rape now thrives. Rape becomes a culture. And during this, you see, many girls that wouldn't want to be involved in prostitution. I'm not saying that prostitution is an age-old occupation or profession, but many are pushed into it because of poverty. I remember when we were in the university, some girls were involved back home. Some girls were involved in prostitution to meet up. I know some of them. They had to prostitute in order to eat. They had to prostitute in order to buy books. They had to prostitute in order to look after themselves. They had to even sleep with lecturers in order to pass. These things happen. It is a culture in Nigeria, so we shouldn't be feigning ignorance about it. This is a real Nigerian system. And this is why we yearn for a Republic of Biafra, because honestly, Nigeria, we are tired. We are tired of Nigerian system. You and I are tired, but when we talk about Biafra, you get angry. You get annoyed. Why should you get annoyed? We are being ruled by a certificate-less man. There's every indication that Buhari is not alive. But when we ask questions about it, they will tell us to shut up. They will tell us to keep quiet. They will say, why are you saying this? Why are you talking like an illiterate? When the person who is asking you this question is equally a buffoon or acts like an illiterate. Because your president have refused to come out publicly and address journalists and ask or answer questions. You know, to do the needful that every leader does. We are being ruled by nomadics whose ancestors migrated from Guinea, and they are lording it over the indigenous people living around the River Niger and Benue. And when you raise fundamental issues, when you ask fundamental questions, they look down on you. People don't want us to talk about Biafra. Some people just, when you talk about Biafra, they want to shoot you. They want to kill you. I don't know if this is a spiritual problem. They glory in servitude. They want to remain perpetual slaves because they think they are okay individually. They don't care about the rest of the society. And this is why the culture of rape keeps going on. When a young girl who is able-bodied can get a job and look after herself, cannot get a job. When a university graduate cannot get a job or look after herself. When a woman, able-bodied woman, is wholly depending on the husband to provide everything, including the uri she's going to rub on her eyelids. Why won't she look around if somebody is going to coerce? Yes, it will take discipline and go, but a hungry man or a hungry woman can do anything to survive. And that is why the system we are involved in is terrible. The people at the helm of affairs, they are driving this poverty. This has been their system of governance. Ruling with poverty, ruling with intimidation, ruling with brutality, ruling through murderous acts, making sure that the people are poor. The people are subjected to inglorious attitude. There are numerous things to mention. So we must begin to talk about this heinous crime of rape. We must begin to understand why the agitation for the Republic of Biafra has renewed. We must begin to look at the failures of Nigeria. We must look at how Nigeria has failed Africa and mankind. We must look at these activities and atrocities by the leaders of Nigeria. We must begin to look at the importance of the woman and the girl child. Because if we do that, if we understand and respect womanhood, then that is the beginning of civility. Because if you don't have a respect for a woman, which means you don't respect your mother, you don't respect your sisters. Because the average man wouldn't want her mother to be raped or her sister to be sexually assaulted. So you don't have to do that. We must begin to think about education. Education. In a country that doesn't value education because the rulers are less educated, why wouldn't there be a rape culture? In a country that excels in inequality, you see what we call fiefdom. Fiefdom, whereby the rulers see the ruled as their slaves. You see that Fulani oligarchy format of thinking of themselves as born to rule, and the houses as their perpetual servants. That is what they want to extend across the country. But we don't want that. We'd rather go down than subjecting ourselves to such. We just ignore them and their administrative tactics. But now they are looking for our land. They want to take our land. They want to lord things over us. This is where they've met their Waterloo. We cannot take that. If the Yorubas want to keep serving Fulanis, that is their business. The Hausa is already under them, but we will not. We will never. We'd rather go down than do that. And we believe in our destiny. And that is why we can't continue in this culture, a culture that doesn't respect a woman, a culture that annihilates women's contributions. Forget about, you see 1 or 2 appointments they do. It's because the South is influencing them. Left with them, You see what the way they are treating their women. Their women doesn't, but because the South values womanhood, so they want to copy a bit of that. Yet, we see, when you marry an 11-year-old child, 12-year-old child, what does that culture tell you about? It's a stinking culture. A culture that doesn't have respect and regard for motherhood. It is not a culture that we will be party to. And as such, we must rise. We must rise against this. We must rise against this culture of rape. We must get down these levers of poverty and inequality and belief. And that is why we are beating the drums of the restoration of the Republic of Biafra. The echoes are ringing around the world, and we are not turning back until the Republic of Biafra is restored. There will never be peace in that land. So no matter whose ox is God, this is our plans. It is a place where we intend to enshrine as part of our status the dignity of man, particularly the exaltation of womanhood. Thank you for listening to me. My name is Ukachukwu Okorie. God bless you.